Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 9. Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith Yahweh, say, a sword is sharpened and also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. Verse 11, and he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. The sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. And when you read Psalms chapter 17, verse 13, King David says that the sword of the Lord is the wicked. And as pursuant to Malachi 1, verse 4, the wicked is the nation of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. And as pursuant to Genesis 27, one of Esau's blessings was the sword, which he used to gain the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven, and, have his current rulership, which he's in right now, which is just about over. But as it said in verses 9 to 10, that the Lord has given this sword that it'll be sharpened into the hand of the slayer. And who is this slayer going to wield that sword against? Cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people. It shall be upon all the princes of Israel. So this sword of Esau, the wickeds, is coming against you Israelites, who are known as your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite, therefore, upon thy thigh. And as we've been seeing with the rhetoric from Trump lately, he's ready to go to war in quotes against you, you YNs, you thugs, you criminals, you animals, you savages, as they're saying, after this recent incident with that stabbing of that Ukrainian girl on that train, etc., etc. And, it remains to be seen, how intensely, talks of sending troops to Chicago or these other states are going to be. But regardless, know this, according to prophecy, there's going to come a time to where, there's going to be no more talking, and it's going to be all action. And it's not just going to be these troops walking the streets, checking IDs or driver's licenses. Bodies are going to hit the floor, as that Edomite song says, and blood is going to flow through the streets of America. And the main target is going to be you Israelites. But now I'm going to go to my first article on NPR.org titled, Trump Walks Back Chicago War Threat, but Vows to Clean Up Cities. President Trump said he doesn't intend to go to war with American cities, but is vowing to clean them up in his latest comments on an apparent plan to send National Guard troops to U.S. metropolitan areas to help fight crime or assist with deportations of suspected undocumented immigrants. And with the video I did a couple of weeks ago, some ICE agents shot at some some of you Northern Kingdom or so-called Latinos. Nobody was hit, but it's already starting to get physical. And I believe in that same video, I read an article to where these ICE agents were secretly recorded saying, look, there's a bonus for putting these, illegal immigrants down permanently. So Trump was asked Sunday whether he was threatening war with Chicago following a post on his website, Truth Social, one day earlier. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities, Trump told reporters on Sunday as he left the White House. We're going to clean them up so they don't delete 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense. On Saturday, last Saturday, Trump posted online that Chicago was about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Last week, Trump signed an order renaming the Defense Department, though Congress would have to officially change its title. And what's interesting about that is the last time, the Department of Defense was known as the Department of War was, during and a little bit after World War II. So with it going back to that title, hey, that's letting you know that World War III is also on the horizon. And even though Trump is walking back these claims, best believe that's in his heart of hearts to go to war against you niggers, spics, and tontos. The social media posts featured references to the 1979 Vietnam War film Apocalypse Now, as well as an image of Trump made up to look like a character from the movie Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore. And that's actually a really good movie. But when you look into the origins of it, it was based off of a book called The Heart of Darkness, which dealt with Esau's colonization in the Congo and the abusing, of those so-called Africans there, which, hey, all in that region, you've had a lot of Israelites live there as well. And, the movie itself is a metaphor for just Esau's colonization and brutalization of the natives of a land in general. So looking at it in the spirit, and you're seeing exactly how Esau's coming, getting back into that old perpetual hatred towards you Israelites, looking at you as a, 3/5 of a man, a savage or an Indian, an animal, a subhuman, and justifying himself in putting you to death. As brothers have been going into, Esau's bringing back that scientific racism with these statistics, and now he's got AI to further push the agenda that you so-called Negroes especially, but you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you're violent, you have low IQs, you're just a threat to society. In response to the post, Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker wrote on X that Trump was threatening to go to war with an American city. This is not a joke. This is not normal, Pritzker added. Donald Trump isn't a strong man. He's a scared man. Illinois won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator. I'm going to just skip around a bit to hit the main points. For the past several weeks, Trump and other administration officials have suggested that Trump could send National Guard members to Chicago. Trump has claimed that Chicago needs federal help to combat crime, even though the mayor says that homicides, shootings, robberies, and carjackings are all declining. Guard members may also be used to assist federal officers carrying out ramped up deportations and immigration raids. Trump has also threatened to send troops to Baltimore and New Orleans. Hey, down here in recent days, cities where crime is also down. Chicago, Baltimore, and New Orleans are also heavily Democratic and have a heavy population of you Israelites. That's pretty much it with this article. You get the point. But hey, this is Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai getting ready to judge you wicked Israelites for all the iniquity you've constantly been, indulging in. And now you have no more. You've been having no more cloak for your maliciousness because the prophets are out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this, telling you who you are, who your enemy is, and what you need to do to come back to your power. But just like with the prophet Jeremiah in the past, our people, the majority of them didn't listen to the prophets and actually just wanted to put the prophets to death, which if you could do it today, you would. And Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai ultimately brought that judgment by these heathens down on you Israelites. Which brings me to Jeremiah 18 verses 21 to 22, which, when you read a couple of verses up, it's, Jeremiah praying to the Lord to put judgment and curses on Israel, because here he was, like I just said, preaching to the people as we're doing right now, and they sook to put him to death and didn't take heed to his words. So we're in this same spirit, because, a lot of you niggas out here, you YNs, and you wicked women, you wicked Israelites of all the tribes do need death and need to be put down in great numbers. But this is Jeremiah chapter 18, verses 21 to 22. Therefore, deliver up their children to the famine and pour out their blood by the force of the sword, which the slayer wielding the sword this time is going to be Esau, Edom. And let their wives be bereaved of their children and be widows, and let their men be put to death. Let their young men be slain by the sword in battle. And when push really comes to shove, a lot of you YNs, you young men, you YMs are going to get slain by the sword in the battle on these streets of America. And a lot of y'all are going to get drafted to go fight and die in World War III. Let a cry be heard from their houses when thou shalt bring a troop. Hey, Trump wanting to put National Guard on the streets of these different cities in America, chiefly these Israelite majority cities, shall suddenly come upon them, for they have digged a pit to take me and hid snares for my feet. And with how bad it's going to get, you Israelites are going to wish it was just the National Guard, because there's going to come a point to where these domestic troops are going to get sick of abusing their fellow citizens. So that's when the foreign troops come in. That's when the mercenaries come in. And now with all these drones and robots, that's when those Terminators come in. But now I'm going to play this next clip that's on worldstar.com titled "A Look of Horror, New Footage Released. Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska looks up in horror moments before fatal stabbing on Charlotte train." And, just listen to Trump's rhetoric when he's explaining this situation, calling you Jakes, savage animals, that need to be put down, which in a lot of cases, that is the case. But best believe this is being used as part of the greater narrative to demonize you Israelites so that Esau can be justified in coming down upon you. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And, you recently just had a post by Elon Musk where he said, if so-called whites want to save themselves, pretty much they need to go to war so they and their civilization isn't erased off the face of the earth. Because if they keep kowtowing to being called a racist or whatever, that's going to be the end of their, way of life as they know it. And best believe, that's just going to galvanize a lot of these lower level Edomites out here to come against you Jakes. On top of these troops, and another part of biblical prophecy are race wars taking place, nation rising against nation. And whenever, you want to rouse up Esau, just have something happen to a cute, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, even though she's a brunette in this case, innocent-looking white woman. Look at all those instances in the past where Jakes were lynched and cities were burnt down because it was said that a Jake so-called raped a Edomite woman. And then on top of that, the Jake that they're showing that did this is your typical, thug in the mind of Esau. But let's see what Trump has to say about you Israelites.
Too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. Really very, very innocent people. In every place, they control radical left judges, politicians, and activists and they've adopted a policy of catch and release for thugs and killers. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we saw the results of these policies when a 23-year-old woman who came here from Ukraine met her bloody end on a public train. And here's a picture of it. This is the picture of it. And this is a picture of the woman, a beautiful young girl that never had problems in life, with a magnificent future in this country. And now she's dead.
And I'll just say this real quick, without saying too much. When I first saw this clip, it looked like AI to me. And, it's very interesting that this situation, with this Ukrainian girl, and it's interesting that she's from Ukraine. As you see right now, support in the West among the people is waning for these governments to support Ukraine against Russia. This Ukrainian girl coming to look for a better life on a subway train was stabbed by that Jake. And then, it really started in, social media that this story got traction, because when it happened, the mainstream wasn't really catching on to it. And then, you had your right-wing type people come out and say, look at the double standard here. If the roles were switched, it would be all across the news. And they referenced that situation that happened a couple of years ago with Daniel Penny, where, he was a ex-Marine, and there was a crazy so-called black man ranting and raving on the subway, and he put him in a chokehold and deleted him. And then, but that situation gained all the traction in the news. Hey, things happen on the surface, and things can happen beneath the surface to push a narrative. As it says in 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Like Elon Musk said, hey, this whole society is against so-called white people. You see the hypocrisy, so we're going to have to start fighting back to take back what's ours.
She was slaughtered by a deranged monster who was roaming free after 14 prior arrests.
A savage, a thug, a deranged monster, etc., etc.
We cannot allow a depraved criminal element of violent repeat offenders to continue spreading destruction and death throughout our country. We have to respond with force and strength. We have to be vicious just like they are. It's the only thing they understand. 24 of the top 25 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrat mayors. 50 people were murdered in Chicago in recent weeks, with hundreds being shot. And it's time to stop this madness. The people of our country need to insist on protection, safety, law, and order. We have proven that it can be done, because we did it right here in D.C., in District of Columbia. The capital of America was a bloodthirsty, horrible, dangerous place, one of the worst. And now it's a crime-free city, and we're going to keep it that way. It can be done. It can happen fast. All we want is, please, Mr. President, we need help. Chicago needs help. Other cities needs help. We'll do what has to be done, because we're going to make America safe again. And that includes our big cities. We're going to make those cities safe. Thank you.
Intentionally failed.
Chicago's going to find out why it's called the Department of War. This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 4. And the Egyptians, the spiritual Egyptians, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8, these Americans will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. And the way Trump's been moving from, economics to law enforcement to the military, he's looking like he could very well be that cruel Lord and that fierce king set over Egypt or America. And the main target is going to be you Israelites. And hey, they've been talking about Trump's health lately. If he does, kick the bucket, best believe the person coming after him, hey, is going to be a cruel Lord and a fierce king as well. Because, we are at the end of America. There's going to be no Make America Great Again. This place is about to get foreclosed on by the elites to bring about their NWO. And between here and them getting there, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. And like I've been saying throughout the video, the main target is going to be you Israelites. But this is Luke chapter 19. I'm going to start at verse 41. And Salakia. And just like that, Jeremiah 18, and 22 to 23 was Jeremiah prophesying about the ancient Babylonians coming against the Israelites. This is Yahushua prophesying about 70 AD, where the Romans were about to come in and besiege Jerusalem. And as it says in Romans chapter 15, everything written aforetime was written for our learning. So just as those things happened in the past, the same things are going to happen again. Now this shit's acting fucking stupid. But this is Luke chapter 19, verse 41. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it. Yahushua, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now are they hid from thine eyes. The prophets, Yahushua included back then, prophesying to the people of the kingdom of heaven and also of the destruction that would come down for the wicked of our people. Again, they didn't take heed back then, like they didn't take heed to Jeremiah, like they don't take heed to us today. So what? The judgment comes to take away that peace. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side. And while it's not building up a literal siege wall like in the past, what would that be considered today? Troops coming in, blockading, a city to where, the only people that can come in or out are those that are authorized with the right ID. And if you pay attention, a lot of where Jake's neighborhoods are by train tracks, which, can cut off locations, and trains can be used to, bring people to different locations, such as a detention center. Alligator Alcatraz, the original Alcatraz opening up, what they call it, Cornhusker, the Cornhusker Clank, that new detention center opening up in Idaho, just all these different detention centers magically opening up, all in the name of ICE and deportation. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee. Women shall be bereaved of their young men. They shall be widows. Their men shall be put to death when a troop shall come in suddenly, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. When Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua finally puts it on the spirit for that slayer to swing that sword, if you're not of that elect number, no mercy shall be shown to you, your children, the elderly, the youth, etc., etc. Everybody's getting put down. But now, I'm going to close it out in 2nd Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to start at verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and that goes into many things. These race wars, civil unrest with, conservative versus liberal, class warfare with the rich versus the poor, citizens versus non-citizens, citizens versus troops, patriots versus those in the government. It's about to be a free-for-all out here. And while Jake is going to be the main target hey, you other nations in America, including you Edomites, hey, this government is going to show its wrath and its fury against you. Shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that modern day sword is the gun. And you just recently had a clip by that Jake that was saying, hey, Trump better not come to Chicago because these niggas got switches and we ain't gonna go down like that. Well, hey, everybody is gonna get their day to shine in the sun. But hey, as he said, they got switches, swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men. And sedition means conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch, which that what that Jake said would be considered seditious. You're pretty much saying you're going to fire on government troops, and then you've got these patriot groups and a bunch of other people just starting to rouse up against the government because they see that they're not for their best interest. And invading one another is going to go from throwing words to throwing lead. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, these people in the government, your mayor, your governor, the president, as well as the authorities like the military, the police that uphold the system. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Everybody's going to get it how they live in that day. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. What does that sound like? A state of martial law back in that Luke 19. And they shall cast a trench about thee and keep thee in on every side. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So great judgment is coming down upon the United States of America. Not just you Israelites, but all you Americans, for the great pride you've been walking in. Hey, it's just with these Jakes, it's going to get popping off with you first. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim, and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.